So what I did was, as I was driving down here, I thought about some questions that I would ask you, and a lot of these things, all the stuff we talked about before, we always talk about this stuff. But I was going to start off by, since this is your 85th birthday, happy birthday, and how does it feel to turn 85?
Well, thanks, but in growing up, we didn't celebrate birthdays. Birthday just came and went, and nobody ever said anything. So, turning 85, I don't see anything great about it. Just live as long as you can.
All right. And
well, like boss over you. So I didn't need a boss. If I had a job to do, I would do my job. I didn't need anybody to stand over me and tell me how to do it. You know, to see that I did it, I would do it. But a lot of the younger ones now, they're out from under that. So, but that mess was deeply embedded in people years ago. Like I worked on a job in Chalkawinity, Edinburgh Hardwood Lumber Company, and there was a fellow there. And when he walked, a white fella, when he walked like the great big man, you know, lope kind of from side to side. And one Friday, well, see, on the job, the pay was 35 cents an hour for whites and 30 cents an hour for blacks at that time, see. You didn't make as much money as the white fellas, even though you were doing the same work. And this one Friday, he came and had his little envelope with his little pay, and he said, "You see, bye? Don't say boy, say bye. See, bye, if you're white, don't say white, you say white. If you're white, you'll be making this amount of money, but you're not white, you're colored. Colored folk don't supposed to make as much money as white folk." And I went on home feeling bad. And then it dawned on me, what am I feeling bad for? Even though he's making 35 cents an hour and I'm making 30, he's still not making anything, because the summer before I was in New York, and you could walk right off the street in any old factory and get started with $1 an hour. So now I'm waiting for him to pull that again, and 2 weeks later he pulled the same trick again. That Friday after we got paid, here he come. "You see, like I told you, bye. If you were white, you'd be making this amount of money, but you're not white, you're colored. Colored folk don't supposed to make as much money as white folk." And I said, "Tell me something." He said, "What is it, bye?" I said, "Do you make more money than you need?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, if you don't make more money than you need, even though you make 5 cents more an hour than I do, you don't make enough money to boast about. And what really got to him was one of his buddies that he was trying to impress said, now that is the truth. None of us are making anything. And I said, I wasn't here last summer. He said, no, you in New York. I said, yes. I said, you could walk right off the street into any old factory and get started with $1 an hour. He said, a whole dollar an hour? The way he sounded like $1 an hour was a fortune and a half. And he kept saying, a whole dollar an hour. A whole dollar an hour. He never said anything else to me about his little pay.
Tell me about the man you were gonna shoot that time in the cart. That had the horse in the cart.
Oh, that was when I was less than 10 years old. We lived on what you call Cherry Run Road, and my father was a sharecropper, and he sharecropped for a man lived just past where we lived. And my father always had a nice car. Well, the man that my father farmed for, one of his relatives ran Smith Mills Buick, Pontiac and Buick dealership. And when my father would need a car, he would go to his relative and get my father a car. He would get my father a nice car and wouldn't overcharge him. And my father had as long as he wanted to pay for it. And this little man didn't have a car. And like I said, everybody out there knew everybody else. Because my father lived out there for quite a while. And even the white people used to laugh and come to tell my father how the little man would say, I don't know how in the hell Frank Hass can always buy these nice cars. And I'm a white man and I can't even afford a nice car and got all them young'uns. And they would laugh about it, see. And one day, it was in the hot summer, because didn't too many people out there have cars. A lot of times people would ride their mule carts or horse and carts into Washington to shop on Saturday afternoon. And right on in the back of, what was it, Rogers? Rogers was on Gladden Street, and in the back there was a section called the back lot. It was, in other words, it was in the back of those stores. It was always called the back lot. It wasn't paved. It was dirt. And when it was raining, it would be a muddy, stinking mess, because people would tie the mules and the horses up back there and do their shopping. But when one day I was standing out by the road, and the little man came down the road. He was walking. He was hustling to get into Washington. And he looked at me and he said, "You little dirty black nigger." And I actually thought that if a white man called you a nigger, you had the right to kill the man. As a child. See, this is why grown people should be careful what they say around children. So I thought it was my right to kill the man. And my father had two rifles, a long rifle and a short one. Well, a short rifle I could shoot, because once you got big enough to prop that rifle in your shoulder, my father would teach you how to shoot. So now, I figured now if I hide in the tobacco field, and he come, because the people he farmed with, if he was going to go into Washington and come back home, they would let him use the mule and cart. But now if he was going to, like on Saturday evening, so if he's going to hang out all Saturday night, he had to walk. If nobody came along and gave him a ride, he had to walk all the way into Washington, and that was quite a walk. But people at that time did a lot of walking. So now I figured now when he come by on the cart, but we had dogs, and dogs would always let you know before somebody got there. They'd bark. So now I'm going to hide in the field, in the tobacco field, where he can't see me, and I'm going to shoot him. So I went out and got the rifle and got me some cartridges, and I went out in the edge of the woods and I set up bottles, different targets, and I would shoot. I mean, at that time, a lot of the bottles had corks in them. And you get to the place where you could take the cork off the top of the bottle and turn it upside down and sit it on top of the bottle and take a .22 rifle and pick that cork off without breaking the bottle, you're shooting all right. You can shoot then. And then it dawned on me, yes, but I'm going to shoot him while he's moving. So I got to go back and practice hitting something that's moving. And I figured now if I tie me a cord to that tree limb, tie me a gourd to the end of the cord, and swing that gourd. Let that gourd swing, and now while it's swinging, I hit that gourd. All right. So I got the tobacco twine, as they call it, and I went out there and I climbed up the tree, and I'm going to climb out on the limb and tie my cord. But trying to get out on the end of that limb, I fell off and hit the ground. So my mother always said, use your head for something besides a hat rack. So, okay, what can I do? Oh yeah, got me a piece of brick, tie that cord to it, throw that brick over the limb. I got it right now. I tied my gourd to the end of the cord and swing. I would make that gourd swing, and I'd stand up there and put a bullet in that gourd. Now I'm ready to kill the man. So before I shot the man, I had told my mother what the man did. I was standing out there, and the man passed by and called me a little dirty black nigger. And my mother said, "But how did you feel?" I said, "Made me mad." And she said, "Want to know why?" I said, "Because he called me a nigger." And she said, "Well, are you a nigger?" And I said, "Well, that's what white people call color folks." My mother said, "I didn't ask you what white people do." I asked you if you were a nigger. She said, I said, "No, ma'am, I'm not a nigger." She said, "Well, then why are you getting angry then?" She said, "Do you know what a nigger is?" "No." And my mother gave me 3 books. One book was the dictionary. And I had never paid attention to a dictionary. I found out a dictionary was made up alphabetically. And I got to read these 2 stupid books and find out what a nigger is. And every day she would come in, she'd ask me, "Did you find out what a nigger is?" "No, ma'am." "Well, keep on reading." And I read and I read. And in one book, it was a story about this British man. And the British man said something of how he said, "I say, old chap, you're acting rather niggardly." Niggardly? Oh, I went to the dictionary and I looked. And that word niggardly describes your actions. If you act stupid, silly, anything like that, even though an overly stingy person is a nigger person. Oh, and I got it right. A nigger is a person who acts dumb and stupid. So when she came home, and my mother came home, I couldn't wait to tell her. So she said, "See now, who was a nigger?" I said, "He was." She said, "Who else?" "Nobody." She said, "You were going to shoot him, weren't you?" "Yes, ma'am." "Were you going to shoot the man and you didn't even know what a nigger was?" She said, "That meant you were a nigger too."